What's up, everybody? So Carlos Prates versus Jack Della Maddalena was recently announced, and it will be headlining a fight night in Perth. And my initial reaction is straight up heater. I mean, this is a certified banger, striker's delight. We got the boxing of JDM and the footwork and the movement, cutting beautiful angles, putting together nasty combinations versus the devastating Muay Thai striking powerhouse in Carlos Prates. Sign me up. The UFC absolutely cooked with the matchmaking here. They absolutely cooked. So what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to break down this fight, give you my early prediction and thoughts because, dude, this is a fight that's got me fight nerding out. Like, this is the type of fight where you go back, you watch all the fights, you try to find all the little details and the combinations and the footwork, and that's this kind of fight. Striker's delight, and really the UFC did a great job putting this one together because if we take a look at the welterweight rankings, you know, I was kind of wondering, like, what do you do next with Jack Della Maddalena, right? Because Carlos Prates, to me, I like the idea of Prates versus Michael Morales. These two absolute freaks in the welterweight division that have these massive frames. They got this crazy knockout power. Why not put them in there together, and the winner, they get the next title shot? Right, because Islam Makhachev, he's the new champion in the weight class. And if you're JDM, you go out there and you're not able to defend the belt. You get absolutely dominated by Islam, which no harm, no foul. Islam is the best fighter in the sport. He's ranked pound for pound #1, and I think he's probably the greatest of all time. Or so you go out there, you lose to him, no harm, no foul. But now, really, where does that leave JDM? Because as long as Islam's the champion, like, JDM's not probably getting another title shot. When you get dominated like that, it puts you in a very weird position, right? And then you got Ian Machado, Gary knocking at the door, and I think Ian has earned a title shot, right? But you see Ali out here tweeting, and it seems like they're kind of, oh, you got to be quicker than that. They're kind of like teasing Gary with the title opportunity, right? So we're going to wait to see what that big news is that Ali is alluding to for Islam Makhachev next. But I think that Ian has earned a title shot, right? He beat Bilal Muhammad. He's the only guy to have beaten Carlos Prates, you know, and was in a straight-up dogfight with Shavkat Rakhmonov, made him look human because, remember, everyone's like, Shavkat's the boogeyman of the welterweight division, right? He's been on a crazy win streak, beating MVPs, been beating all these guys, man, and I feel like based on merit and the performances that we've seen from Gary, he's good, man. Whether you like Ian Gary or not, he is a very, very, very slick striker, and his takedown defense has looked really, really, really good. And I think he's an interesting stylistic matchup for Islam. I mean, I think Islam would beat him, but it's an interesting fight, right? It's a fresh matchup for Islam. I think Ian has deserved the next title opportunity. But when we look at this weight class, like, if JDM did not fight Carlos Prates, are they going to give him Michael Morales? Like, maybe that was an option, but he already fought Bilal Muhammad to where he won the belt, which was an incredible performance, so they're not going to run that back. You know, so kind of the options were for JDM to fight kind of way down the rankings a little bit, right? And when you're the champion and you go out there and lose, you should be fighting someone in the top 5, in my opinion. So I guess that this made really good sense for the UFC to go ahead and book this, and I think it's kind of a weird fight to where if Prates wins, I think he puts himself next in line for a title shot. Now, if Jack wins, that's where things get interesting because as long as Islam is the champ, man, I just find it hard to believe that the UFC is going to put him back in there with Islam, given the way that the fight went down between the two. But, I mean, this is a great fight, man, because welterweight is absolutely stacked. We got some new contenders and the weight class in Euros Medic, Gabriel Bonfim. There's some dogs, man. There's some absolute dogs in the welterweight division. So I wanted to break that down and kind of give my thoughts there because this matchup makes a ton of sense. This is a great booking by the UFC, and we all know what we're going to get when these two dudes get in there, man. These are two of the best strikers, honestly, in the UFC, right? When we talk about some of the best boxing in the sport, I still have Ilya as the #1 best boxer in the UFC. He has elite boxing skills, the defense, the combinations, the power. I think that title goes to Ilya. But I think right behind Ilya, that guy might be Jack Della Maddalena. The way that he is able to switch stances, rip the combinations to the body, fights behind a beautiful jab, the way he, dips his levels and, covers his head. And he's such a technician on the feet, man. Such a technician, and I think he's got an underrated kicking game. He's got good front kicks, mixes in the kicks as well. We'll attack the legs a little bit here and there, but it is all about the boxing and the range management of Jack Della Maddalena. He does a great job behind the high guard, really, really good head movement, and this is going to be one of those fights where he's going to want to get to the inside and turn this into a boxing match against Carlos Prates. Because if you are in that medium to long range kickboxing range against Prates, you're in a lot of trouble. The only guy that has seemed to really have that kind of style that could deal with him is a guy like Ian Machado Gary, because we all know that Ian's got, this crazy long rangy frame for this weight class, and he can kind of sit there and play the range game against Carlos Prates. But this is going to be one of those fights where JDM's going to try to work to the inside, double up the jab, triple up the jab, try to get into the pocket, and let those nasty combinations fly. Because what we've seen, in the UFC, especially when you look out Muay Thai fighters as a whole, they got very good kicks, good fundamental defense, nasty elbows, right? They're the complete package in that aspect. But if we can usually point to a weakness when it comes to a lot of Muay Thai-based fighters, it tends to be with the boxing. Not that they have, a lack of, of offense with their hands, but it's usually with their defense. They don't utilize a lot of head movement. They kind of just move out of the way. They're very linear and square moving in and out, to where we see a lot of boxers take advantage of that, right? With Charles Oliveira, that forward pressure walked right into the hands of Ilia Topuria. And I feel like this is one of those senses where if Jack can turn this into a boxing match, I think he can go out here and outscore Carlos Prates and probably take him to a decision. If he could stop Carlos Prates, that would be a statement type of performance, where if Jack can go out here and stop Carlos, man, I feel like the UFC is going to be saying, what do you want to do next? We'll basically do whatever you want to do, because that would be an unbelievable performance. But I don't know that it goes down like that, man. I don't know that it goes down like that, because Carlos Prates, right, he's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. And Carlos is one of these dudes that he's got that weird power. He's got that weird power, right? He's 6'1", and it reminds me a lot of Alex Pereira. He's got this skinny, long build to where he's just kind of dancing around in there, swinging his arms around, this kind of herky-jerkiness. And he just generates so much torque and whip and just delivers these nasty shots that have a freakish amount of power on them. They just do. Right, he's got nasty leg kicks, right? We know Jack likes to switch stances. He'll go from orthodox to southpaw. This is probably going to be a fight where he's going to want to fight out of the orthodox stance, because if he goes southpaw, Carlos Prates has got a nasty calf kick. He will tear apart the lead leg, rip kicks to the body as well, front kicks up the middle, and Carlos has a shotgun in that left hand. That left hand that Prates throws, it is a heat-seeking missile. And we know that Jack's got very good defense, but that is the main weapon of Carlos Prates. Is he's got great knees to the body, pulls you into that mid-range with, he knows that Jack is going to try to close the distance, try to bob and weave with the high guard, methodically pressure him, back him up along the octagon side, which is really where Jack loves to let his combinations fly. But when you get into that area, that's also the danger zone of Prates, to where he can let those knees go. And we saw him, we've seen when Prates lets those knees go, he could drop dudes like Charles Radke and get you out of there. So this is a fascinating fight, man. This is absolutely a fascinating fight, because if we take a look at the side of JDM, right, 12 wins by KO, 2 by submission, 8 first-round finishes. But granted, in the UFC, he hasn't been, this first-round machine where he's just running through guys, right? He's coming off of the loss, to Islam Makhachev. But again, no harm, no foul, pound-for-pound best fighter in the sport. And Islam's a complete fighter, man. He's absolutely a complete fighter. And then when you look at the Bilal Muhammad fight, that was such an impressive performance. You knew Bilal was going to come out there, known for his pressure, pace, and cardio, and Jack just stifled all that. His takedown defense looked outstanding, which is why a lot of people, including myself, I'm like, he should be able to go out there and have some sort of success against Islam. I still thought Islam would win the fight. But I was like, Jack, at least he could maybe stuff a takedown or two, and he just had no answers, right? And again, Bilal and Islam have a very different style. And again, these are different stylistic matchups for Jack. He doesn't really have to worry about the grappling of Carlos Prates whatsoever. And then he goes out there against Gilbert Burns, which I think he was actually compromised in this fight. So he was down and is able to get back to his feet, land the knee on Gilbert Burns, and put him out of there. Right, and then goes out there, puts on a pretty solid performance against a rangy Kevin Holland. And when Kevin Holland shows up, he's kind of a difficult guy to deal with, especially if you're only going, to straight strike with him. Right, so I still feel like that's an all right win. Put together some nasty combinations, was ripping to the body, bringing him upstairs. And the Basil Hafez fight was really the one that a lot of people kind of had their reservations about Jack, because he was getting taken down by Hafez. And we're like, what's going on here? Now, again, it was a shorter notice fight, so there were some things going on there. But, this is the kind of fight where, going out there and hurting Randy Brown and then subbing him, I think that's a solid win because Randy Brown, again, I say this time and time again about Randy. When he shows up and he is on, this to me is one of the more dangerous guys on the feet in the welterweight division. Still to this day, man. I think he's a ton of fun to watch, right? And what we've seen from Jack, going out here handling business against just about everybody. But this is, in my opinion, probably the best striker that Jack has fought in his career. Carlos Prates is for real, man. He is absolutely for real. When we look at Carlos Prates, right, he has that extensive Muay Thai background, right? And the Nightmare is literally the perfect nickname for this dude, man, right? 18 wins by KO, 3 by submission, 10 first-round finishes. But when we look at what he's been up to recently, starching Leon Edwards, that's a massive victory, right? Because Leon Edwards was a guy that was known for not being KO'd, right? If you could take down Leon Edwards, you could, dominate him on the ground. We saw, Sean Brady do that, was able to submit him. Again, low fight IQ from Leon Edwards, diving headfirst into Brady, looking for a takedown, don't know what he was doing. But in terms of the striking, Leon's known for being this really technical fighter, really smooth southpaw on the feet that does have underrated grappling. And Carlos Prates didn't care whatsoever. Stop the takedowns of Leon Edwards, right? I figured Leon was going to try to grapple in that fight because if you're just standing at range in front of Prates, you're in a world of trouble. But again, Leon is more of a kickboxer. His boxing, if I had to point to a weakness in his striking, that's maybe a little bit of a weakness, at least defensively. He's gotten a little bit better, with his hands. He's got good hands, but he's definitely doesn't have anything on JDM when it comes to the boxing. And Prates went out there and absolutely smoked him with that left hand right down the pipe. And then the spinning, knockout against Jeff Neal, which was a very impressive win. But again, we just saw what Medic did to Jeff Neal. And then that loss to Ian Machado Gary. But again, that was a 5-rounder. That was a 5-rounder, and I feel like Prates kind of had this approach where, he was kind of maybe a little bit worried about the gas tank. I don't know. Because I think that this was a 5-rounder against Neil Magny, wasn't it? Right? So, again, Ian Machado Gary is just that good. I've been saying that about Ian Gary for a while, man. And Carlos is a guy who I've not picked against, right? And the only time, we got that wrong was against Ian Gary, which that was a great performance by Gary. Sticking and moving. Every time Prates would get on the pressure and get too overly aggressive, he would duck underneath a strike, take him down, or at least fake a level change, give Prates something to think about to stop the forward momentum, right? And then he went out there and just ran over Neil Magny, which, we all kind of saw that coming. And then, to knock out the Leech like that, that's not something we see, which was kind of where it was like, oh, man, this dude's for real. You could see it in the way that Prates was fighting and moving, and then to go out there and do that to the Leech was crazy. And then to knock out Charles Radke, right, with that nasty knee to the body and then starching Giles. Carlos Prates is a freak, man. He is an offensive juggernaut. His defense is pretty good as well. This basically comes down to the boxing of JDM and the Muay Thai style striking of Carlos Prates. I love the stylistic clash. This is a fight nerd's dream, striker's delight type of matchup. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we see Jack decide to grapple a little bit, right? Take a little bit of a page out of the book of Ian Machado Gary, right? If you're trying to pressure Carlos, you're walking into the danger zone. But that's where JDM lives, though, in the pocket, ripping combinations to the body, bringing those hooks around the guard, fighting behind that very educated jab, right? Changing levels with it, changing his angles, changing his rhythm. JDM is a smooth criminal on the feet, man. He is a smooth operator with the boxing, cuts really good angles off well with the pull counters. This is a great fight. I give the boxing edge to JDM. But when it comes to the kicking, the knees, the elbows, the clinch game, a lot of those areas, that is going to favor Carlos Prates. But it'll get interesting if we do see any grappling in this fight because we've seen Prates' takedown defense is pretty good. Now, granted, we haven't really seen him in there necessarily against a dominant grappler like a Kamaru Usman, a Sean Brady, a guy like Bilal. But to be fair, I think Prates would stop the takedowns of Bilal and would probably be able to knock him out. If you cannot get Carlos Prates down, or you cannot methodically stick and move and maneuver for 15 to 25 minutes, however long the bout is, you're going to get knocked out somewhere in that time frame. That's just the reality of a Carlos fight. So Prates has the touch of death. He's got that freak power, tends to be a little bit too dependent upon the left hand, and he starts to get a little bit frustrated, which is why I think, especially early in the fight, if JDM can take a little bit of a page out of the book of Ian Gary, whenever Prates starts to get overly aggressive and try to move forward, and he throws one of these big shots, duck underneath, get a hold of him, and whether you take him down or not, put the thought in his head, because I feel like that's something that Ian did a really good job of, was just stopping the forward momentum and just giving Carlos something extra to think about, make him a little bit more hesitant, because we have seen if you just go out there and try to just go back and forth and have this technical kickboxing fight with Prates and you let him get into a rhythm, it is going to be a tough guy to beat, man. He's going to be a tough guy to beat. So this is a fascinating fight, right? I feel like JDM, early prediction, I think Carlos Prates can walk Jack into something, man. I feel like he can walk Jack into something because there's 3 layers to Prates' game. There's the clinch, where he can let the knees go in the elbows. There's that mid-range where if you're kind of moving forward, if you're trying to box, that means that you're close enough, obviously, to be countered, and that also means that you're in that range to where Prates can whip out these long limbs that he has, these quick leg kicks, right? These fast kicks to the body, but specifically that knee, right to the body. It's a nasty shot, man. So whenever you're in that boxing range, that is something that you're going to have to be very weary of if you're JDM, is that devastating knee that Prates throws. And obviously the left hand and the hook that Prates throws, those are his money shots on the feet. And you can't get it clean, man. And what we've seen from both of these guys is they are very durable. They're very, very durable. JDM is incredibly durable. He's about as durable as they come. He's known for having a granite chin. And a lot of that is not necessarily, whoa, JDM's so durable. It's just, he's very defensively responsible. Everything comes from where it's supposed to. The technique is very tight. He's got a very educated game, man. But so does Prates. It's just such a unique style clash, man. The boxing versus the Muay Thai, right? I feel like Prates' boxing is, offensively is really good. Defensively, we see him kind of back up in a straight line, right? He's got that kind of square Muay Thai stance to where the body's going to be available. So I sense a decision. If it goes the distance, I think JDM wins by a decision. I think he's able to get the boxing going, get the jab moving, rip to the body, is able to kind of disrupt the rhythm of Carlos Prates, right? And again, who's going to win the pressure game battle? Who's going to be the one moving forward, dictating the pace? Who's going to be the one kind of playing off the back foot? Because we've seen that when Carlos Prates is the juggernaut moving forward and he's got you backing up, he's got you reacting, he could be a tough guy to deal with. And that's where Ian Machado Gary, stylistically in hindsight, matches up kind of well against Prates, because Gary's one of the rare fighters in the UFC these days that can fight very well moving forward and very well moving backwards. To where we've seen Jack fight pretty well off the back foot, especially against Bilal, but you don't necessarily want to be coasting and cruising around on the back foot for a long period of time against a power slugger like Prates. So I feel like Jack's going to want to take the center, back him up. I feel like if Jack can get his game going with the boxing, rip to the body, fight behind the jab, mix in some kicks, mix in some takedowns at least. Not that he's really going to have, JDM's an underrated grappler, even though he got dominated by Islam. We've seen his takedown defense is solid. He's got a good jiu-jitsu game. He does have submissions in his arsenal, but he's not good enough of a grappler, in my opinion, to really trouble Prates. And Prates' takedown defense is good. He's got a very strong understanding on the floor as well. So I think we're in for a kickboxing fight. I think if it goes the distance, Jack is able to outscore him with the boxing. But if we see a stoppage, I think it's Carlos Prates landing a knee to the body, stinging JDM, taking some wind out of the sails, slowing him down with the body shots, and then eventually walking him into that left hand, man. That left hand, it is a sniper shotgun-like shot from Prates. Like, we have not seen anybody really eat that left hand. And even in that Gary fight, late in the 5th round, like he started to take over, it was too little too late. But he even hurt Ian Gary, right? We saw Gary slowing down. And again, that's that's another factor to having, to operate off the back foot for 25 minutes is it wears on you. It wears on you. Having to run around, be the guy, operating off the octagon side, sticking and moving, playing the matador kind of role. So a lot of this to me is going to come down to who imposes their will. And if it's in boxing range and JDM can avoid the knees and that big power shot of Prates, I think JDM can absolutely pick him apart with the boxing, because I feel like if there's any holes of Carlos's game, people will say the grappling, like against an Islam or, if Sean Brady, I think that Prates would knock out Brady. But for example, if Brady got him down, right, we'd be talking about, Prates, how's he going to navigate and get back to his feet, especially if Brady can get into a top dominant position. Right, or a guy like Kamaru, I think he could probably knock out Usman. But you get my point, is if there's any holes in Prates' game, we're talking about, he's getting taken down and controlled and can't get back to his feet, or he's getting submitted, whatever. But on the feet, Not many holes in Prates' game, but if I can figure one out and point to one, I would say that it would be in that boxing range. It would be coming, down to the combinations, the smooth boxing of JDM. This is an amazing fight, man. This is an amazing fight. So if it goes the distance, I think JDM gets it done, and I think that means that he gets the boxing going and puts on a clinic in that department. But if we see a stoppage, I think it's Carlos Prates walking JDM into something, which I think is very possible. And I know JDM's very durable, keeps the chin tucked. He's got great defense. Carlos Prates, he's got that different kind of power in the welterweight division, man. This is a straight-up heater. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please do me a favor. Give this video a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments about this fight and who your early prediction is. And if you're new, if you could subscribe to the channel so you do not miss an upload, I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you next time.